Sometime in our lives, we've all have issues with what we believe is bias in reporting of the media. Whether or not we would like to admit it, some of the bias in journalism is not intentional. The fact of the matter is that all stories are influenced by the ideals and attitudes of media types involved in developing the story. It is still important, however, to be cautious when watching the news or reading the paper so that you as an American public can make rational and well-informed decisions based on what you know rather than what you've heard. There are numerous ways in which you can observe and notice media bias. I will examine and explain a few of these. One of the first ways you can notice media bias is the selection and omission of information from a story. And what I mean by that is, in a typical news broadcast, before the story actually airs publicly, what the editor can do is go through and select pieces of the story that he wants you to hear, so that after hearing it, you might have more of an opinion based on what he feels. And that kind of goes along with the omission of information. He will select what he wants you to hear and omit what he doesn't want you to hear. And a lot of times what that does is if you can't have all the information, you can't make a well-informed opinion on any matter. And what people don't know a lot of times is that this happens, is that there is media bias, and a lot of people just think this is it, face value, this is the truth, when really there's most likely another side to the story. And I mean, it can't be proven that, editors go out of their way to intentionally pick this and that out of a story to make you see the way they see. But if you really pay attention to just a typical news broadcast, a lot of times, especially when it comes to political issues and a time of voting, you can definitely see the intention behind the broadcast. Another way that you can really see the bias in media is headlines in newspapers. And I mean, that's the most read part of a newspaper is the headline. It's big, bold, black print that stands out above everything else. It's what people read through to try to see if they do or do not want to read the article, And so if a writer comes out with a really intriguing, captivating line that makes the story sound, it's so intense and exciting, and it's not, that's one way. And the other way is if they can subtly slip in kind of a feel or a condescending tone about something where they may not really be into this issue, or they may be opposed to it, and they can give the title something that's going to set the tone for the rest of the article. So when you read that, you're going to think something before you even start reading it. And what a lot of people do, they'll just scan through headlines and think, oh, this happened, when they don't know all the facts, because a headline can be very deceiving as far as the whole story goes. Another way that the media can show bias in their reporting is photography. And a lot of times people don't really think about this. But I mean, if you were to look in a Time magazine or any type of political magazine or one that just has a lot of photography in it, you'll notice that especially like in a time of war, that you'll see a lot of really vivid pictures from over the seas. And I mean, there's a big difference between a well taken picture and a good atmosphere that's going to give kind of a bright mood to a scene, instead of a picture that's maybe not so flattering, where you catch somebody on a bad day, or you catch somebody in an awkward position or doing something they maybe shouldn't be doing. And like for instance, I've seen pictures in a magazine over across seas in Iraq where instead of taking a picture of a kid hugging a soldier, running around playing on a bright sunny day, you'll see a picture taken at an angle to where the kid is crying about something in kind of a dim lit setting, like maybe in the evening at dusk, and maybe because he fell or he scratched his knee or something very small. But then they'll angle it almost where you can see a soldier in the background, and he may have a look on his face that's not so nice, and then you're going to automatically assume that something must have happened, even though nothing really happened. So that's one way photography can really take a toll on media bias and how they can portray things in the way they may not really be. Another way is just like the paparazzi with celebrities. You can catch somebody on a bad day or in an awkward position, and you make them look like a total fool when, honestly they're probably not. You may have just caught them at a bad time. I mean, we all have our bad moments, And so, I mean, I've seen pictures, of Bush after a speech, and it's just a really weird looking picture, like he's making a face or something. And then, the headline is, Bush says this and that once again, or, trying to make it kind of sound like, he didn't do what he was supposed to do. And so the pictures can really kind of set the tone as well for the articles and for your opinion on that person. One of the biggest ways I've seen media bias, and one of the most influential ways that can really affect the outcome of votes and just the public opinion on many issues, especially in politics, are statistics and polls. And what people don't understand is when they go to these polls to try to form an opinion, they don't understand that the source of these polls is actually from a select group. And a lot of times these polls aren't accurate because they don't come from a diverse group of political parties. A lot of times you may see a poll like back in the Bush election. There were a lot of polls that indicated that Bush is probably not going to win, that things weren't looking too well. Well, he ends up winning, you know, and you're thinking, well, wait a minute, I thought this. Well, it's because if you look down in the small print, the source of that poll was from a primarily Democratic source, you know. And so that can be very deceiving. And a lot of times people will even base opinions on issues on statistics and polls. And yeah, they're nice. I mean, they're very, very convenient. They give you kind of a spoon-fed look of numbers and what's going on and who believes what, who believes this. But the truth is, they're not that accurate because people don't take it from equal amounts of people from different parties with different views on all the issues at the time of the vote. And I mean, I can't stress how important it is for you as a voter and a citizen of the United States to make it a priority to be well informed and knowledgeable about the issues before you form an opinion on it. And I mean, it really is irresponsible for the American public who don't know what they're fighting for to simply stay out of the discussion and voting. I mean, it would be better for them to just stay out, you know. And vote. I mean, voting is a privilege as an American, and so it would be better for you to just not vote or just stay out of a discussion instead of, you know, talking noise that doesn't make any sense. I mean, if you can't back it up, if you can't really firmly speak about what you believe in, then you're just wasting air, you know. I mean, and it really just kind of takes away from the American vote for people to go out and just vote to vote. You know, just say, hey, I can vote, so I'm going to go vote. You know, a lot of people like this guy. I'm going to go ahead and go with this guy instead of getting into it. And that's the biggest mistake you can make as a voter. And I mean, just to casually cast your vote on what you have heard instead of what you believe. I mean, it's really unacceptable, especially when the same people who vote for the candidate complain 2 years later about the policies he's putting into place because they don't agree with it. Well, you know, they should have read up on it. They should have formed an opinion based on the knowledge they've gotten from researching about the candidate. My opinion on the subject of media bias can really be summarized in a quote that comes from Bernard Goldberg, and he states, "The old argument that the networks and other media elites have a liberal bias is so blatantly true that it's hardly worth discussing anymore. No, we don't sit around in the dark corners and plan how we will slant the news. It comes naturally to most reporters.